This week on Objective Change the World, we're going to cover the biological basis of belief. In order to understand pseudoscience, we have to understand a few basic facts about the brain and how humans think. Basically, our brains are belief machines geared toward doing what is easiest. We are programmed to accept any piece of information before we reject it. Once our beliefs are formed without trying or thinking, our brain's job is to find a belief that's true, not false. This is how confirmation bias occurs. It's more comfortable for us to believe that we're right about something that's actually false than to admit we're wrong. People will watch or read the same news media outlets over and over again. This feeds into the beliefs that they already have, which leads them to not challenge the information. So folks would rather hear and read what they want than critically analyze their views. Since our brains like to do what is easiest, we are particularly talented at finding patterns. This means that pseudoscientific claims often come about because we're looking for patterns when none even exist. This goes back to somewhere along the lines of the early hominid ancestors, the ones who learned that the rustling grass probably means a predator instead of investigating to be the predator's prey. This type of no questions asked associative learning gets passed down through the generations, and we are the descendants of those who survived because they tended to perceive patterns everywhere. In other words, we tend to find patterns in both meaningful and meaningless data, which in science terms is referred to as patternicity. Speaking of meaningless data, let's take a look at the concept of pareidolia. Basically, pareidolia is a type of illusion in which your brain perceives a vague stimulus as something clear and recognizable. Now, pareidolia isn't always meaningless. It's definitely meaningful because we are hardwired to recognize faces as infants. This is how we recognize caretakers when we're babies. But some of the examples we find of pareidolia are meaningless. For example, we see faces in faceless, inanimate objects. There's a man on the moon, or the lizard chilling on Mars, or Mother Mary on a piece of toast. Next, we move into the concept of agenticity, which builds upon what we just talked about with patternicity. Agenticity is the tendency to infuse patterns with meanings. For example, the demon in the radiator that you hear in the middle of the night is probably not out to get you. We think that since the radiator is making crazy noises, that it has the intent to straight up murder us. That's not true. It's probably just trying to heat your home. Now I beg the question, who's driving the bus? So strap on your seatbelts because I'm going to argue that Miss Frizzle isn't the one driving. By that I mean, who's in charge of your brain? Is it you? Do you tell your brain what to do at every moment? Or are you merely just a small component of a brain that's making important decisions without your consent all the time? Now, what I'm about to say might get a little confusing. According to psychologists Tversky and Kahneman, the brain runs on two systems, System 1 and System 2. System 1, which is associated with patternicity, is automatic and requires little to no effort. It's unconscious, which means that you cannot turn it off, ever. This is a system that's working when you answer the basic math question, 2 plus 2 equals, 4. Or complete the phrase, peanut butter and jelly. System 1's also to blame for making logical fallacies so enticing. Take, for example, the hidden flaws such as ad ignorantium, which is an appeal to ignorance or lack of knowledge, which many people who believe in ESP use as an argument because there's so much we don't know about the brain, so why not ESP? Check out the link below if you want to learn more about logical fallacies. System 2, on the other hand, is the one that kicks in when you add a little bit of concentration to the mix. When you're using System 2, you get an increase of glucose to the brain. This is why when you use System 2, you tire easily, because glucose is a high-octane fuel. Think about when you're walking with a friend, and they ask you why you and your boyfriend or girlfriend just broke up. Chances are that you stopped walking so you could think about the answer to that question. You did, didn't you? You probably didn't realize that you stopped, but you really did. It's because this question was too much for System 1 to handle, so System 2 needed to kick in and command all of your attention. Basically, System 2 fires up when a situation becomes cognitively demanding. So how does this relate to pseudoscience? Pseudoscience is System 1 telling you that you should believe something without going through the method of fact-checking System 2. System 1's job is to believe what it's told, and pseudoscience is only disproven when System 2 activates to ask the questions. To be more of a critical thinker, we need to avoid confirmation bias and use System 2 more often. Let's change the world.